Hello everyone. Tony Farina is off this week. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but there is another type of cancer that is often not talked about, brain cancer, particularly glioblastoma. This year, over 25,000 adults in the United States will be diagnosed with cancerous tumors of the brain and spinal cord. Brain tumors account for almost 90% of all central nervous system tumors. One hometown woman who knows about all of this firsthand is Shannon Traphagen, who lost her husband, Mike, to glioblastoma in 2020. Shannon is here to tell her story and what she's done to continue the legacy of her husband while helping others. Welcome so much, and we're so happy to have you, and we're so grateful that you have an opportunity to inform our viewers about this disease. Let us talk a little bit about your journey with your husband, how it was diagnosed and what happened.
He was diagnosed in August of 2019 at the age of 45. Actually, he was 44 when he was diagnosed. He passed away when he was 45. There were not a lot of signs or symptoms when he was diagnosed with glioblastoma. The only thing that really brought us into the emergency room at that point was some anxiety that he was feeling and a bit of brain fog. And I didn't think that, I felt like something was off, and so I decided, let's go into your primary care physician. And he started writing down some of the symptoms that he had been feeling over the last week or two, and that was really it. There was no seizures, there was no loss of feeling or visual impairment. It was really just this feeling off and some headaches. That was really it. He started writing down the symptoms of how he was feeling, and he started struggling to write the letter C all of a sudden. And that was when I said, we're going to the emergency room. I thought maybe he had had a mini stroke. I was very aware of heart disease, which is something that runs in our family. And I sat on the board of directors for the American Heart Association. So that was just the first thing that popped into my mind, was that maybe it was some type of mini stroke. We arrived at the emergency room. He passed all baseline protocols. They did a CT scan, ultrasound, everything was coming back completely normal. And it was probably midnight on August 19th. We were going into August 19th, and we were waiting on the MRI. And it was taking forever. And I finally went up to the nurse's station at Buffalo General and just said, we're just waiting on the MRI. I'd like to get us home. We haven't had dinner. We've been here for hours. And she said, you know, something popped up in the MRI. Somebody's going to come down and talk to you soon. And that was kind of the beginning of the end. I remember going out in the hall after we found out that he had a mass in his brain that they thought was glioblastoma, but wouldn't know till they did the surgery. And I was just shaking uncontrollably. I didn't know what that meant. I kept asking them, what do you mean brain cancer? What do you mean glioblastoma? And the only thing they could think to tell me was, think Joe Biden, his son Beau Biden, and think John McCain, both of whom passed away. And so the next 14 months were really spent fighting this very rare brain cancer that was just not on our radar, especially when you're 44 years old and so healthy. We were actually planning a baby shower to adopt our first little baby at the time that he was diagnosed, and we lost the adoption after a number of miscarriages. And 14 months from the time that he was diagnosed, I lost him. So actually 2 years ago this month was when he passed away from his disease.
Now, is that a symptom, not a symptom, but is that typical? Is this the kind of cancer that really affects, by the time it's diagnosed, there's a very short period of time and nothing can be done?
Yes, unfortunately. It is a cancer that does not have a cure currently. The typical range to live through something like this is 15 months to 3 years on average. But through the work that I have been doing since his death, I have been meeting a number of individuals, all of whom are under the age of 50, who have been living 3 years, 5 years, 7 years with this disease, some longer than that. And we have a number of doctors across the nation that have just been fighting this alongside of all of us and really trying to find better treatment options for individuals to get them past the 3 to 5 year mark. And 5 years is really that magic number for many oncologists right now to get patients past. But when you're 30, 40, 45 years old, 5 years is still, it's just not a lot of time.
No, it's certainly not. And obviously it's something that affects people when they're unexpectedly and when they're young. So now I know that you have been making the most of this terrible situation by doing a lot of positive things in relation to treatment, diagnosis, awareness of brain cancer.
Yeah, I started probably 4 months after he died. Part of my career was as a writer, a public speaker. I had done some radio. And 4 months after he died, I mean, we had been together for 20 years. And I was really struggling to figure out where my life was supposed to go, especially after losing the babies on top of him. And I knew that I needed to find purpose. And what I started to realize and what I started to see was that there was a gap across the nation, across the globe. There was a gap in communication. There was this hole that we could really fill by storytelling some of this journey to really help bring awareness and advocacy. And I did that through a podcast. And I launched the podcast in 2021 during Brain Cancer Awareness Month, which is in May every year. And it's called Game on Glio. And the name of the reason we named it Game on Glio was because that was our motto when he was fighting this, was game on. We're gonna take this journey Game on Glio. And we launched the first season to phenomenal success. We had a great partner and sponsor our first year. And so we are officially now in our second season of the podcast, going into our third season. I have an amazing producer in Kevin Minorzik. His last name is always a mouthful. And we have just, through this journey, we've been able to bridge that gap of advocacy and awareness for brain cancers, not just glioblastoma, but brain cancer in general, spinal cord brain cancers, and metastasis from other diseases that lead to brain cancer. We've had phenomenal doctors on the show. We've had patients tell their stories. We've had caregivers and widows. And it is growing exponentially.
Do you want to tell us about Traphagen's Trail Ride, which is something also that our viewers might want to know about?
Yeah, so Traphagen's Trail Ride is actually taking place this month. We are in our second season of the fundraiser, and it is a fundraiser that I launched last year to support brain cancer initiatives and efforts at Roswell Park Cancer Center. They have a number of clinical trials going on right now, one of which is the Cervax-M vaccine, which is showing huge promise in glioblastoma patients. And I wanted to find another way to support this effort, and so I launched Traphagen's Trail Ride for brain cancer. And by doing so, we were able to raise funds for Roswell. Last year, in only 6 weeks, we raised $15,000, and this year our goal is to try to beat that. So we hold a cycling event in October.
I was just going to say, what's a trail?
The Trail Ride is a cycling event through the South Towns. We wanted to try to promote cycling in other areas outside of the city, and so we hold a cycling event in October, which is the same month that my husband passed away in. So we hold that event every October, which is taking place this month on the 15th, and we're asking for donations to be made directly to Roswell through Traphagen's Trail Ride for brain cancer. And we're hoping to grow this in the future and be able to help other nonprofits and foundations across the nation that are building clinical trials and helping to find better treatment options for brain cancer individuals.
I was just going to say that the point of all of your good work and efforts is obviously to find earlier diagnosis, to find causes, to find treatments. Whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's part of the reason that we started the fundraiser, which I'm hoping to turn into a nonprofit in the next year, is to help bring about that advocacy and awareness. And we have some great local sponsors and national sponsors. Gamma Tile Therapy is one of our national sponsors that will be at the fundraiser, the cycling event. Roswell Park Alliance Foundation comes out every single year. We have Tom's Pro Bike, which comes out and helps out. And we get a number of individuals that literally come together as a community, people that I've never met that heard the podcast, that come out just to say thank you for drawing more attention and awareness. It's all about communication. It's all about conversation because nobody's talking about brain cancer.
And also, from your podcast and from everything else you're doing, there's a lot of involved support and kind of therapy of talking to other people who've been in this situation, such as other people whose husbands, or I don't know, does it affect men more than women? I didn't ask you that.
That's actually a really good question. It does affect men more than women. There is no rhyme or reason right now, which is the problem, and that's the difficulty in figuring out why this continues to happen and why it's happening to younger and younger individuals. But it is affecting more men than women. But there are women diagnosed. I actually have a gentleman who is on the podcast this month, the end of the month, who lost his wife to glioblastoma, and she was only 42, 43 years old when she passed away. So it affects children. I mean, we have pediatric cases of brain cancer and glioblastoma. So it really does cross all barriers and spectrums. But it's nice to be able to let people know that they're not alone, because when Mike got diagnosed and when he died, I just felt so siloed. I felt like I was the only one going through this, and through the podcast and through the fundraiser, I've been able to build a community, not just in our region, but down in Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh. We've made some great friends through the Outlier Fund and Coupe de Ville Restaurant, who has been supporting our fundraiser, Ivy Brain Tumor Center out in Arizona, Roswell Park, Mimivax right here in our own backyard, who's got the Cervaxone vaccine, and Highmark, Blue Cross Blue Shield, who has just been an amazing partner locally. All these people are now rallying behind me, and my friend Kate at Hope Rises.
This has to be really rewarding for you to feel like you're making a difference, which you are. And tell us about the website. I know there's a website that people can get more information.
Yes, there is. People can go to my website if they want to, which is thegameongliopodcast.com. Or if you'd like to donate, you can go to give.roswellpark.org/go/Traphagen's Trail Ride for Brain Cancer, and it's the number 4. And you can donate right there. But I also have an Instagram page at Game on Glio Podcast, where you can learn a lot more about what we do. It is very rewarding, but it's also helping me find purpose. And if I can help others and just make a small difference, I don't know what that looks like, but
I think you are. I think you're making not a small, but a big difference. Thank you, Shannon, so much for joining us, and the best wishes and good luck to you. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of The Big Picture. Thanks for watching. Remember to join the conversation on Facebook and at WBBZ on Twitter. I'm Judge Penny Wolfgang. We'll see you next week.